Ding, 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 ding.
Good Wednesday morning. Amy Jacobson here. Bruce Wolf filling in for Dan Proft. You yet again today. Thanks so much for coming in. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yes, and we've had quite the busy morning. A little bit of breaking news that we'd like to tell you about. We told you how Jussie Smollett has lied to police before in the past. And now we have a little more information. It was a 2007 misdemeanor complaint filed in Los Angeles that says Jussie Smollett, once he was arrested for DUI, gave police his brother's name, Jake Smollett. He also signed his false name of Jake Smollett on the promise to appear in court. Smollett also was later charged with false impersonation, driving under the influence, and driving without a valid driver's license.
And why are we finding this out now? Why didn't we find this out 3 weeks ago?
Because the mainstream media was buying what he was saying, that he was attacked and that he was a victim, when it turns out he might be the perpetrator and orchestrator of this concocted idea to stage an attack so that he won't get written off Empire, which right now, currently, he's being written off Empire, going from 9 episodes to 4.
No, they're substituting, they're writing him out of the scenes and substituting statues of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson in the spot.
Well, you know how they do it in soap operas back in the day? They'd say, playing the role of Nina is, and then they'd introduce a new person to play the same character. Don't think that's going to happen here in this case. But again, he's supposed to show up for filming, because they're filming season 5 right now on Thursday and Friday. But I don't think that's going to happen because he may be testifying before a grand jury and also facing some federal charges for allegedly sending a threatening letter to himself on the set of Empire. But that's a big story. Also, another big story here in the Chicago area, the Aurora shooting. 5 people killed. One was just an intern on his first day at work. Aurora police officials and the mayor held a pretty emotional press conference yesterday where they talked about, what his background. Yes, he did have his FOID card revoked, but nobody went to check his house to see if he had handed in the guns, which they asked him to do on that piece of paper. And of course, he didn't follow the law. But he also, when he applied for the FOID card, he didn't check the box where it says, "Are you a convicted felon?" Which he was a convicted felon, spent 5 years in prison for allegedly stabbing his girlfriend back in 1995 in Mississippi.
So is there any way that, and obviously you'd expect a felon to lie about it if they want to get a gun. So is there any process that we have by which we check and don't take their word for it? Is that part of gun control? Maybe we could ask John Lott.
Yes, and John Lott joins us right now on our Turnkey.pro answer line. John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center and author of The War on Guns and More Guns, Less Crime. Good morning, Mr. Lott Jr. How are you?
Good morning.
So are you familiar with the story, what's going on in Aurora?
Oh, yeah, no. And I think Bruce's comments exactly on point. They do have a way of dealing with, finding out even if the guy lies on the form there. And that is they have background checks. They use the federal National Instant Crime Background Check System, the so-called NICS system. And but the problem is, I don't think people are talking about what happened back in 2014. You had Governor Pat Quinn had cut the budget for the part of the state police that did the background checks by over 50%. He did it as a way of retaliating against gun owners who he felt had given him some political defeats in the state legislature, because he wanted to create a big backlog for people getting their FOID cards.
Oh, wow. This is really a story. That's unbelievable. It's, I remember when we threw George Ryan in jail because, this guy with the mud flaps on his truck got a license somehow. Why not?
He paid for it illegally.
Where's the story that John Lott is telling us about right now? Why isn't that getting currency? That because Pat Quinn wanted to punish gun owners by creating this backlog, he actually created a void in the system that allowed Gary Martin to cut through it. That's amazing, John. That's just amazing.
Right. So basically, you had the state police there kind of cutting some corners. And so exactly what they did, I don't know, but they did 3 background checks on Martin. The first one when he got his FOID card, the second one when he tried to buy a gun, and the third one when he applied for his concealed carry permit. The first 2, apparently they didn't do it right. Either they didn't make sure that they had put in the information correctly, or they just skipped putting in the information.
Well, he lied on the FOID card. He lied, and you don't get a fingerprint for a FOID card, but he lied and said that.
Fingerprint's not relevant.
The fingerprint's what's got him from the concealed carry. That's why
No, that's not it.
All right, well, then what are you hearing?
Look, the NIC system obviously had his name in there. Okay? I know they want to go and claim there's something else that's going on there, but if they had put in his name correctly, it would have gotten a hit on either getting the FOID card or on purchasing the gun. His name was in the system. All right? We know the name was in the system because the third time that they went there, they were able to go and get the hit. And so, you know, whether you put in the fingerprints or not, just simply putting in the person's name accurately or even close to it should have gotten a hit.
You know, John, this is amazing. This is amazing. I mean, what you're chronicling right here. And remember, the liberal dream is, and any one of them who is honest is just going to say, we got to get rid of all the guns. We got to have confiscation. I mean, the Second Amendment is antiquated. It was it was written during the musket era. That's what they want to do, and they think that they can wave this magic wand. And yet, here we have this one situation where you've just described all these bureaucratic mistakes, how it all fell through. Can you imagine trying to organize a program to confiscate 300 million guns? Can you imagine what that would cause in the United States, writ large, what we have here?
Sure. I mean, look at Mexico. Mexico, since 1972, has had only one gun store in the country. The most powerful legal rifle that you can go and buy in Mexico is a .22 caliber short round. And yet Mexico has a murder rate that's 5 times higher than what we have here in the United States. The drug gangs aren't having battles with .22 caliber rifles.
No, they're not.
And they've had that in place with the government running the one single gun store there. Only about 1% of the Mexican population legally owns guns.
One of our, I know, it's crazy.
But all their guns are coming in from Indiana, right? In Mexico.
No, they're not coming in from the United States. They're coming in from all around the world.
Yeah, Central America.
Just as they bring in illegal drugs from the rest of the world as a shipping point before they bring them into the United States.
We have a text message from one of our listeners. Thank you, John Lott Jr., for explaining to the morons how background checks work. It was a complete failure by ISP, Illinois State Police. But we have another text message. I wanted to ask you this question. When your FOID card gets revoked, does the sheriff's office or state police officer, are they supposed to go to the person's house and physically take their card and check to see if they have a weapon and hand in their weapon? I mean, they knew we bought a weapon because...
that's what they're supposed to do. People are making a big deal about the fact that the law doesn't mandate that the state police or the local police do that, but the police are informed. Obviously, the state police are the ones who are notifying the individual and also notifying the local police there. So it's just a question of whether the police think that they have the time to go and do that as opposed to other things that they're doing for solving crimes. But, that's their obligation at that point to go and do it. But the thing is, he shouldn't have gotten the FOID card to begin with. The name was in the system. He shouldn't, if they didn't have the big budget cuts. The thing you have to understand is not only did Quinn cut the budget in half, but you were having a huge increase in the applications for FOID cards and for gun purchases at that period of time. So they're having this big increase at the same time he's cutting the budget. And you had these long delays. There was huge pressure on the state police to be able to go and in some remote way try to keep up with the volume there. They had a huge backlog, and they cut corners.
Unbelievable. It just shows, I mean, what a perfect illustration of government intentions leading to hell. I mean, that's Quinn thinks he's punishing legal gun owners, because he's anti-gun, and he winds up making it possible down the line for this guy to exist. I wonder how former Governor Quinn feels today. Probably nothing.
I wonder if he knows.
Well, I mean, the only way he's going to feel something is if the media goes and makes this a story.
Oh, they won't. It's not part of their agenda. This doesn't work. They're in the tank for the Quinn philosophy of politics.
I mean, these things about the fingerprint and stuff like that, it's just spinning excuses right now.
Well, you set me straight, so thank you.
And it's just really unseemly that the media is kind of not questioning this and not putting the feet to the fire for the Democrats who are running the system at that time.
At the Henry Pratt warehouse, there's a no gun sign on the front of the door that everyone keeps mentioning. If you've watched the coverage, you've seen it yourself. Do you think businesses with that many employees, with that many 29,000 square foot facility, they should hire an armed guard, or at the very least let some employees carry? I mean, especially if you're in the HR department and you're going to be firing someone.
Yeah, look, I think having an armed guard is an incredibly difficult job if you're trying to stop something like this attack, because having somebody in uniform is at a real strategic disadvantage. I mean, you're standing out there like a neon sign. If somebody wants to go and attack, they're going to kill the only person that they think is armed first, because once they kill that person, then they have free reign to go after other people that are there. He's going to be the first target. And so the benefit of having people with concealed carry permits is that the killer loses that strategic advantage. He doesn't know who it is he has to go and take out first. But having a sign like that just indicates to the killer that he's going to have free reign, because it obviously didn't stop the killer from going in and taking his gun there. What it did was make sure that there was no law-abiding citizens there who were going to be able to stop. There's a reason why 98% of the mass public shootings since 1950 have taken place in places like this, where general people are banned from being able to go and protect themselves. These killers may be crazy in some sense, but they're not stupid.
They do a cost-benefit analysis. All criminals do. I mean, they may be insane, but they're not nuts. Thanks so much, Mr. Lott, as usual.
Yeah. And it's always a pleasure having you on our show, and we'll have you back again soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys can put pressure on some of your friends in the media.
They're impervious.
No, we'll tweet it
out.
out.
All right, Rafer Weigel, get off the Smollett
All right,
beat.
John Lott Jr., president of the Crime Prevention Research Center and author of The War on Guns, More Guns, Less Crime. He joined us on our